I think the thing that shocked me was the response from Oxfam's senior management. I had expected that when I brought to them evidence of the scale of abuse that they would be responsive to that.
What's interesting about my case, it was actually a phone call about an understaffed intensive care unit at night that departed significantly from national staffing standards. In intensive care, the stakes are quite high, and I was worried about the risk to patients. I could never have imagined where I would be 4 years later.
People that contact us, it's when something is going on in their organisation where that moral line is being compromised, and actually not saying anything doesn't feel like a real option. Whatever the situation may be, they are calling us because they want the wrongdoing to stop. Protect is completely unique. We are the only free legal advice centre providing advice to whistleblowers. Because we are a legal advice centre, anything anyone tells us is subject to legal privilege, and that means we cannot go anywhere without their express consent. We know there's some classic pitfalls that individuals will make through frustration or through lack of advice and information that are totally avoidable, and hopefully by coming to us, by getting advice from us, we can help you avoid some of those things. Ideally, we reach people and we talk to them when they first see something going wrong and they feel anxious about raising that for whatever reason that may be, but we will support people at any point in their whistleblowing journey.
I'd brought to the attention of the Chief Executive and the trustees concerns about sexual exploitation and abuse at Oxfam GB. I'd really struggled to get the traction I sought. Given the scale of the abuse that we were uncovering, I was extremely concerned that we were not doing everything we could to safeguard these people from abuse by our own staff. And at that point I contacted Protect. Every time I called, it was the same individual, and that was incredibly helpful because he knew my case very well. And not only did he give me the facts, but also gave me that emotional support as well. Because when you're a whistleblower, you feel incredibly alone. The reason why I went to Protect and not to any other organisation was I had confidence in them. I knew that they were independent. I knew that they didn't have an agenda. I also knew that they were professional. When the issues of systemic abuse in the aid sector became public, I was invited in to meet with the Department for International Development. I really wanted somebody with me to bear witness to what I said, but also to provide me with support. And Protect accompanied me to that meeting, and they were absolutely excellent. They then asserted what my rights were, and they were just a real advocate for me in that meeting.
I raised a very objective staffing issue within a few weeks of arriving there. So to give you an idea of the ratios, the standard says it's 1 doctor, 8 ICU patients. It was routinely 1 doctor, 18 ICU patients, and in addition to that, duties on the wards looking after very sick patients. Basically, the Trust and Health Education England, instead of saying he's wrong, we did listen to the safety concerns and we haven't done anything wrong. They said he and other junior doctors can't have whistleblowing protection, so you can't hear the case. I should be very nearly an A&E consultant. Instead, I've been pushed into a 4-year battle just to fight for whistleblowing protection for all junior doctors, just so I can get my case heard. What Protect did in this case was incredible. They saw the danger of a gap in whistleblowing law pushing junior doctors out of whistleblowing protection. They also saw the wider damage that actions of NHS leaders in my case were doing to whistleblowing law as a whole. And this resulted in them sending an intervening legal team with a top QC to argue the case from the position of the public interest.
Protect are unique on the legal landscape. They are the go-to organisation, not just for lawyers, but for individuals. Arguably without Protect, we wouldn't have whistleblowing legislation in the first place.
Protect very early on recognised that if you could work with organisations to help them put in place the right culture, we're actually much closer to our objective to make sure that harm doesn't even occur in the first place. We take all the intelligence and understanding we have from working with whistleblowers day in, day out, we help them understand why staff don't speak up, but also how to handle concerns sensitively, confidentially and appropriately, and also respond properly to the concern.
You can imagine you're a junior doctor, you've raised serious safety concerns, they've effectively been ignored and you've been discredited. I cannot put into words what that felt like. It's dishonest, it's misleading and it's dangerous apart from anything else. And it's pitched me and my young family against the government and the medical establishment in a 3 to 4 year legal battle.
There was a particular incident when I was with my son and someone came up to us and was quite open about their views on my having spoken publicly. And that was incredibly hard. My son is only 4 years old and to have to hear that was extremely difficult. And that's when it's even more important to have an organisation like Protect there to say what you're saying about systemic sexual exploitation and abuse is serious and action does need to be taken.
Protect has a twofold element to it. It's about protecting the individual, but it's also about protecting society. If you don't have people speaking out, then the public won't know either. Things can never improve. There will not be accountability.
Protect were the only organisation that were prepared to stand by me and my legal team as we defended whistleblowing law. We were able to win in the Court of Appeal, and that has safeguarded statutory whistleblowing protection for all junior doctors, so they are free to speak openly about safety in the NHS. So that is good for doctors and it's good for patients.
There was a public inquiry into the concerns I raised along with others, and that led to a report published into sexual exploitation and abuse in the aid sector. And that was a really hard-hitting report by all accounts with some very strong recommendations for change in the sector. The next stage is to see those recommendations through. So I'd really encourage those people watching this video who are thinking about speaking up to go for it. Go for it with support, but go for it and make a difference.
If we can help one person speak up and actually protect an individual, stop a patient death, could avoid the next disaster, then we're achieving our objectives in why we're here.